You agree?
Why?
That should be
Yeah,
obvious.
should be obvious. You can't get along.
As your position must be added. Okay.
I'm happy to be the moderator here. It's fine.
How come John's sitting in her
I
chair?
don't know. All right, it's 6 o'clock, so we're all here.
I guess I'm your new table mate.
Okay, it's 6 o'clock. This is the regular meeting of the Plymouth Township Board of Trustees. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Trustee Stewart.
Here.
Trustee Monahan is excused. Trustee Kermy.
Here.
Trustee Buckley.
Here.
Clerk Vorba here. Treasurer Dorshevitz.
Here.
Supervisor Heisey.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, tonight's Pledge of Allegiance, how about Chief Nightel? You got the best outfit on, so.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I do need a motion at this time to approve the agenda.
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Clerk.
I move for the approval of the agenda for Tuesday, September 26, 2023.
Okay, motion's made by Clerk Vorba. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Buckley. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, at this time, we are going to go into closed session, so I need a motion at this point.
It is now 6:02. Mr. Supervisor, I move that a closed session be called for the purpose of consultation with attorneys on specific pending litigation, Wayne County Circuit Court Case Number 23-010250-AA, Myers versus Plymouth Township, in accordance with the Michigan Open Meetings Act, Section Michigan Compiled Laws 15.268, 8E and H.
And H. Okay, motion's been made by Clerk Vorba. Is there a second? Second by Treasurer Dorshevitz. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Treasurer Dorshevitz.
Yes.
Clerk Vorba, yes. Trustee Buckley.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Motion carries. We're in closed session.
Okay, so for those of you watching on YouTube or watching at home, we are going to keep the video rolling. So you are not going to, you'll see a blank dais. There will be no sound. That is because if we turn it all off, we cannot turn it back on. So we don't know when we'll be back here. So if you just see the place empty, just stay tuned and we'll be right back. Thank you.
Come on, Matt, I'll take you out. All right.
turned up the volume on that one. Let me just.
Need a motion to return, I'm gonna need a motion to return to open session.
Okay, you make the
And
motion
then
to
we're
return.
going to need,
Welcome to Plymouth Township.
and then I'll do the motion.
Okay. I'll do the motion, and I need a second.
Hold on.
To return.
I'm gonna wind up where the wind stood.
Okay,
Mics are hot.
yeah. Okay, I need a motion to return to open session.
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Clerk.
It is now 7 o'clock.
That works.
I move that the board return to open session.
Okay, motion's made by Clerk Vorva. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Treasurer Dorchevitz. All those, we do have to take a roll
roll,
call
yeah.
on this, yeah.
Trustee Stewart,
Yes.
trustee Kermy,
Yes.
trustee Buckley,
Yes.
clerk Borba, yes. Treasurer Dorchevitz,
Yes.
Supervisor Heising.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, at this time, I would like to make a motion to concur with the recommendations of our attorneys as stated in the closed session of Tuesday, September 26, 2023. Is there a second?
Second.
What is the case? Announce the case.
The case number is Meyer v. Plymouth Township, Wayne County Circuit Court, case number 23-010250-AA. Motion was made by Mr. Heisey, seconded by Mr. Vorva. Mr. Vorva, please take the roll.
Supervisor Heising.
Yes.
Treasurer Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Clerk Borba, yes. Trustee Buckley,
Yes.
trustee Kermy,
No.
trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. This time I need a motion to approve the consent agenda tonight.
Mr. Supervisor,
Mr. Clerk.
I move for the approval of the consent agenda for today's date of Tuesday, September 26, 2023.
Motion's made by Clerk Vorva. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Buckley. Any comments, questions, concerns by the board? Mr. Stewart?
Well, I was almost about to call you Your Honor, but you took yourself out of that. I am pleased that legal counsel has advised us. I'm pleased that we are well into the process in Wayne County Circuit Court.
Okay, good. All right. Any other questions or comments on the consent agenda? Hearing none, I need a motion on this. On the
Well, I move
consent
for the.
To approve the consent
Consent
agenda.
agenda.
Yeah, motion's made by Clerk Vorva. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Treasurer Dorchevitz. We do need to take a roll call on this because we have two different contractual items.
Trustee Stewart,
Yes.
trustee Kermy,
Yes.
trustee Buckley,
Yes.
clerk Borba, yes. Treasurer Dorchevitz.
I'm sorry, I lost track of what we were
The
doing.
consent agenda.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Okay,
Supervisor Heising.
Yes, sir.
Motion carries.
okay. Public comment limited to 3 minutes.
Did we approve the agenda also?
Yes,
Yeah,
we did.
before we went into
that.
closed session.
I've given you all a handout. My name is Dale Bernhardt. I'm against the racetrack. Let's call Northville Downs what it is. It's a gambling facility. It is open for gambling 365 days a year with a live horse racing 52 days this year, plus 16 just added. But everyday gambling. Not just watching live horses, it's about gambling. So let's talk about gambling. Facts. It's a public health epidemic as deemed by the UK and many other countries. The US has by far the most casinos and gambling sites in the world. 75% of gamblers have a drinking disorder. Per man, since 2019, drunk driving deaths have increased by 31%. 38% of gamblers have a drug disorder. 61% have a clinically diagnosed personality disorder. Poor households have a 100% higher rate of gambling. Gamblers are 15 times more prone to suicide, the highest rate of any addictive behavior. It is hard to eradicate a gambling addiction because gamblers don't feel sick, only unlucky. 50% of those affected by gambling problems commit crimes in order to support their habits. Gamblers show much higher levels of anger. Pari-mutuel and internet gambling are the most addictive forms of gambling. Northville Downs uses pari-mutuel gambling. So let's talk about youth gambling. Well, Northville Downs and the state allows 18-year-olds to gamble. All ages are welcome. Aaliyah Lucas, gambling specialist with Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, said her department is now focusing on preventive efforts toward middle school. 18 to 24-year-olds are the most likely to engage in risky gambling. That is why gambling facilities like Northville Downs allows 18-year-olds to gamble and even younger to view. Youth who start young are more likely to grow into problem gamblers. With the anxiety levels of youth today, we should be removing youth gambling. 18 to 24-year-olds are the fastest growing group of gambling addicts. So as a community, shouldn't we be trying to protect and help our most vulnerable? So your decision regarding allowing this gambling facility will be based either on the small revenue generated or the health, safety, and welfare of our residents. Mr. Heisey is trying to strike a deal with Northville Downs and a compromise with our residents through a community benefit plan. But no community benefit plan can ever make up for the havoc created by gambling issues. Bad is still bad. The dollars we receive from Northville Downs will be used up in some insignificant way, but we will have to deal with this gambling facilities issues in a significant way. As a board, please show wisdom and reject this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else?
Okay. Probably going to be a little redundant, but hi, I'm Joyce Janicki. And as I sit through these meetings, one thing continually stands out. Your residents and some trustees are truly educated on this horse racing proposition and really make excellent points. As I drove home from the last board meeting, I thought about what Trustee Stewart said and what you just said, that you can hardly call this business acquisition a racetrack since racing will be held only 2 days a week, while simulcast gambling will occur 7 days a week from 11 to 11. Your residents are correct when they call this simply a major gambling venture with some horse racing thrown in now and then. Trustee Stewart also questioned what community amenities may be received from this deal. Horse tracks don't bring in much money lately and are hugely subsidized, with much of this subsidized money going into a strictly regulated fund to be used only within the horse racing industry. A township resident then gave us good reasons to believe that creating soccer fields in the middle of a horse track at a gambling facility may not be such a great idea. Kids would most likely show up for practice or games while all the gambling's going on. Kids don't wear blinders and are very curious. They're going to want to know why all these adults are drinking and watching live-streamed horse races in the middle of the day. Is this not a rather sordid and sleazy scenario for kids? Surely not when one imagines when thinking of kids enjoying a great day of soccer in the fresh air. And what about the environmental quality of these fields? UStrotting.com, which is the website for the harness racing industry, states that a racetrack should be constructed so that 3/4 of track drainage is to the inside of the track, with only 1/4 to the outside. Soccer moms won't be very happy about kids possibly playing in horse urine and E. coli. I did a Google search on new horse tracks being built in the US. No matter how I worded the search, I came up with Plymouth Township and Ashland, Kentucky. The one in Kentucky will probably be successful because of a casino subsidizing it with historical horse racing machines. How will your track survive? Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Anybody else at this time? Your thing is off, yeah.
I speaking okay?
Yep.
Gary Pine. In my 45 years as a resident, I've not seen anything like this come full circle. Kurt, you began as supervisor complaining of chicanery, and here we are today. In the last board meeting, the mask came off. After mocking residents' concerns on social media, and after a heart-wrenching account of 3 deaths due to drunk driving, Jerry, you disrespectfully and shamelessly passed around a photo of the deceased. Many were puzzled by your motive, as it gave concrete proof that drunk driving concerns are real. It also gave insight into your callousness. Apparently, you did not learn from the blowback with the Kobe Bryant tragedy and photos. How are residents, voters supposed to feel about your judgment as clerk and on the racetrack? Kurt, more township bulletins have come out. Again, no mention of Northville Downs. You then claim transparency because you release agendas. In a January 23 TV News PR piece, newscaster Kimberly Gill called horse racing a dying industry. Marilyn Beretta, Salem Township horse owner, states there is not enough purse money for more races, making Northville Downs primarily a gambling facility. You disregard the fact that only multiple sample testing can prove the proposed site is either contaminated or not. No vote or a mailed survey to each resident of $15,000 expense were conducted versus monetary risk to the residents for what history has proven will be a failed project. You refuse to answer questions. Dr. Hamrick's question on contingency purchase met only silence. No good for Plymouth Township residents has been provided. Your lack of patience or a hidden agenda is revealed by your PUD. Master plans and zoning exist. Use them. Now, Norwegian Nell Hydrogen has announced a $400 million potential Plymouth Township site interest, proof of your poor judgment. Mike Carlo told me that Northville Township would not sell them land. Why do you want Northville Downs if they had it and no longer view it as beneficial? You keep claiming political motivations for the opposition. When a speaker last meeting who effectively stated there is no future or demand for this gambling facility and stated his political pedigree in Macomb politics, you shone a light on your political motivation by calling out and asking him for a coffee meeting in a videoed public meeting. All of this places the rest of you in a dilemma. Clearly, residents do not want this gambling racing facility, so heed the fable of the fox and the scorpion, where a scorpion asked a fox to carry it across the river. The fox said no because the scorpion would sting and kill him. The scorpion said if I did, they would both drown. Based on this, the fox agreed. Halfway across the river, the scorpion stung the fox. As they were drowning, the fox asked why. The scorpion replied, because it's my nature. Kurt and Jerry have revealed their true natures. You hold your future and that of the township in the balance. Please do not destroy our family, tranquil, desirable community. Do not be the fox.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Bill Pine, 45-year township resident. I've continued to think about your gaming and racing facility and have some additional thoughts. Kurt and Jerry, I've been listening to you for some time now, talking about your First Amendment rights while serving as public officials, due process, attorney-client privilege, rights of business owners, nefarious political initiatives, and your right to see the names of people who are opposed to the gaming facility. What I haven't heard you say is a word about your obligation to the residents of the township. I've been coming to these meetings since February. The very first time I came here, Kurt, I watched you walk through that door and tell the Planning Commission to approve the planned unit development for the gaming facility.
Yeah.
In the 7 months since then, there has been a long parade of residents who have asked you dozens and dozens and dozens of questions and made many, many constructive suggestions about the gaming initiative in an effort to more completely assess the pros and cons of this initiative. I haven't been to all the meetings about this issue, but in the many meetings I have attended, you haven't answered a single question or considered a single suggestion. Instead, Kurt, you've initiated an extensive disinformation initiative, throwing dust in the air to try to distract folks from the issue at hand through print, electronic, and social media, claiming that residents' concerns were actually an effort by mysterious political enemies who wanted to pick on you. The folks who are pushing and supporting gaming, Myers, and the car wash are essentially all from outside of Plymouth Township. You don't work for the outside special interests. You don't work for the gaming industry. You don't work for the you don't work for multinational corporations. You don't work for private equity groups. You don't work for the politicians and bureaucrats in Lansing. You do work for the residents of Plymouth Township. You need to answer the residents' questions. You need to acknowledge your obligation to those residents. You need to assure that the pros and cons of all these initiatives are addressed. The gaming facility and racetrack is a blatantly losing proposition based on my analysis. Plymouth Township is watching.
Okay, thank you.
I want to thank the four of you up there that are paying attention. There's a couple of up there totally disrespectful, staring down at the papers, not listening to people at all. Thank you.
Okay. All right, anybody else? Very good. Then, oh, sorry.
My name is Diane Belowis, and I think you're probably all tired about hearing about the opposition to the racetrack, but I think probably everybody on this board has children and maybe even grandchildren. And I hope you've been doing some research on the pitfalls of gambling. I've read that depression and anxiety are part of the main reason people turn to gambling. And we all know that there's a big problem with depression and anxiety nowadays. We don't need our children exposed to gambling this close to home. We need to maintain our community values and family values. And it does not include a racetrack. Actually, it's a gambling facility because you can't even call it a racetrack because it's only 50 days of horse racing a year, approximately. The rest of the 300 and some days is strictly gambling. And there's no benefit to that. But on another note, back in February, Kurt went before the Planning Commission, and he basically encouraged them to present this to the Board of Trustees. And he said this was only the second time in 7 years that he went before the commission. What I'd like to know, isn't this a conflict of interest since Carlo Brothers donated to your campaign? And usually campaign donations require something in return. And the old saying goes, just follow the money. There has been a total lack of full disclosure, and this should be investigated. When the vote comes in from our board for this racetrack, it'll be interesting because the ones with the no votes are the ones that are interested in preserving our community. And the ones with the yes votes are the ones interested in their own political gain. Now, I have one other thing I wanted to talk about, and that was Jerry Vorba's comment at the last meeting about 9 days of early voting. Chuck Kermey questioned you regarding using the Friendship Station, and I actually didn't know at the time, but you said there wasn't adequate parking there. But in fact, I discovered that's precinct number 2. So there's adequate parking for 1 day of voting when people come in larger numbers, but there's not enough parking for 9 days of voting where people are spread out. This whole vote thing was done with lack of transparency. Okay. And another thing I discovered is the reason the $50,000 figure was presented was because that did not require a bid. Any purchase under $50,000 does not require a bid. And I saw you waving the phone.
Yeah.
But since this board is so non-transparent, I think you should up our time to at least 4 minutes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mary Ann Adams, 25-year resident of Plymouth Township. I've also come and spoken about my opposition to this racetrack. This is personal for me. I have family members who have addiction issues, and one who has specifically suffered from gambling addiction and is paying tremendously for this. The individuals that have addiction problems are veterans. They have seen many bad things in their time in the service, and it's very hard to come back to this country and try to assimilate and be normal after the things that they've seen. So I'm going to continue to fight this as much as I can, just so you know. But I also want you to know that personally, I can't even get out of my subdivision in a normal way now because Ridge Road is a mess. This morning, when I had to go to work, there was truck after truck after truck, and I can't even get out on Powell and make a left or a right-hand turn during rush hour, so I go west on Powell, I go south on Ridge, try to get to 5 Mile, and that traffic is just backed up with all the trucks now that are trying to get to where they need to go. So I think you need to redo the traffic study because that's one of the requirements for the PUD, and you really need to understand what is going on with the traffic there, especially with that monstrosity that's been built on Ridge Road now, that 2-level warehouse that is going to cause a lot more traffic to come there. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, anybody else? Very good. Then we're going to move on then to item H1. This is under new business, the School Resource Officer Agreement with Plymouth Canton Community Schools. Chief Nightel?
The MOU between the Township of Plymouth and the Plymouth Canton Community Schools is a document that is very similar to other agencies throughout the country, as well as Canton. The city of Canton uses a very similar. Mr. Bennett and I worked on this quite a bit with the school district. It was put in front of the school board 2 weeks ago and was approved. And I would recommend that this be approved. This advises both sides of exactly how we're going to operate with the schools and with the Township Police Department.
Okay, and this has been reviewed by Attorney Bennett?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Any other questions from the board?
2 questions.
Sure.
What is the source of this document? Who actually wrote it?
That document, it came from a national association. The structure of the document, a majority of the document is very consistent to what was written between the agreement with Canton, outside of the financial pieces.
All right, so it's a cut and paste from a national agreement and Canton's agreement.
Yes, it's very consistent. We looked at 6 other SRO agreements in the area, and this was very consistent with them.
Does this have a time duration? Or is it open-ended?
I believe it's open-ended.
Open-ended. So we don't have an obligation to keep the SRO officer if something happened in our township. This is not a contract. So I need to hear a yes or a no. This is a contract that we're providing the officer and we must keep them? Or
This MOU, the way I understand it is when we have an officer assigned to that position, this would be the rules of engagement between both sides.
But it's not saying we must have an officer.
No,
This is between us and the school district to just define the terms of how that position will provide services.
Go ahead.
Section 13 of the page 6 on the agreement itself, page 16.
Termination,
Yes,
60 days.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we had to do that back when the economy tanked, so we should
This
have
MOU
that.
may be terminated by either party upon 60 days advance written notice. All right, so we have some management rights with, if we have to make changes in our staffing levels. On that same page 6, curiously, this is just a comment, it says, property-related crime allegations are not considered a public safety issue. I think that's kind of an interesting statement.
That's for purposes of searches.
Right.
Who can't you hear? You can't hear Kermie? Is his light on?
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, that's my fault. It's off. Good catch. I'm talking about page 6, where it says property-related crime allegations are not considered a public safety issue. It's at the top of page 6, second paragraph. I just thought that was curious that theft,
For search, for.
for search
searches,
reasons
though.
is
I mean,
not
there's
considered an issue.
Constitutional issues there.
My opinion
Okay,
is.
any other questions for the chief? Very
No.
good. Anybody else?
Yeah, I do have one. How about the Bird School and West Middle School plan for reducing the unsafe pickup conditions there? Has the principal agreed to do anything, or principals?
The new principal at West, Principal Steckel, I met with her and I explained to her that we would sit down and discuss that option and look at ways that we can do it differently.
So she's doing nothing yet? Keeping status quo? Pardon?
They're aware of their school.
Well, fix it. I mean, it's really bad.
Well,
People are hanging out into the lane 1/3 of their vehicle.
I don't think you should start.
Start what? We're spending money for an SRO.
Principal, you don't even know.
You don't have to know it. It's, when I buy a car, I don't have to know the president of the
Saying
company.
bad things about a principal, you don't even.
No, I'm not saying bad things. I'm saying they need to fix it. Maybe we can help them.
Yeah, I guess I would say it wouldn't be accurate to say that she's not doing anything. I think we're going to meet with her, as I've talked to you, Chuck.
Yeah,
with the
so
school
when's the
restart.
meeting?
Well,
Is she gonna schedule it, or are you gonna have to do it?
I'm sorry?
Are you going to have to schedule it, or she's gonna schedule it for you?
I've explained to her specifically the question coming from you about the traffic. I said that this is something I would like to talk to her about.
Okay.
I think, and I'm not a traffic engineer, but, you know, I think we are limited to which way the traffic can go.
Well, Bird School has the same issue. So is the principal new there too?
No.
No, okay. But the suggestion I have is you have Sheridan, Maple, and I think it's Tall Tree. You can spread the pickup up on those. It's not going to be difficult, but they have to urge the parents to do something. Maybe assign them a number. If you're an odd number, you pick up on this road, and if you're an even number license plate, you pick up on that road. Hopefully it doesn't have to turn into some bureaucratic administrative thing, because they communicate with the parents regularly. And safety is our number one concern of parents and students. The parents are taking a big risk by being out in the lanes, especially at Sheldon Road, right where the right turn is for westbound. So for Bird School. And it's been this way for a long time, and I thought that now that we're getting an SRO officer, we have the ability to facilitate it easier. You're new, so that's great. It shouldn't be perceived as hostile. Good ideas, I know, Bob, you don't think I have any, but this is a good idea. We need to fix it.
Okay, any other questions on the contract? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. Mr. Stewart, do you want to do that?
I move to approve resolution number 2023-09-26-81 to approve the memorandum of understanding between the Charter Township of Plymouth and the Plymouth Canton Community Schools.
Okay, motion's made by trustee Stewart. Is there a second?
Second.
Trustee Buckley? See, you guys have got me confused here. You shouldn't have switched seats. I'm totally confused. No, just being funny. Okay, so the motion's made by trustee Stewart, seconded by trustee Buckley. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Clerk Borba, yes. Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Trustee Buckley.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes, yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Treasurer Gorshevitz.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, item H2 is just a brief update on the Joint Recreation Master Plan with Laura Haw, the planner.
Thank you, Supervisor Hezzy. Trustee Dershowitz, I do have a presentation, if I could take over the screen, please.
Yeah, certainly.
Thank you.
So you're,
West podium?
4 bucks. East or west?
West.
West. West is best.
Are you still?
Paul. All right. Joseph will take care of it. That's me, Joseph.
We need the west.
Maybe if you disconnect, would that be okay?
Are you connected?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I am.
When you switch it, it should change.
Yeah, it should change. You got it on a thumb drive?
Do, but
Where's he going?
I don't know. He's particularly crazy tonight.
I just,
Laura, do you have it like on a thumb drive or something?
yeah, I just,
You want me to take your laptop and I can drive?
no, because I have my notes on here.
Yeah. Okay. Looks like it's frozen.
We'll try.
I'm not plugged in right now.
Okay.
I am plugged in.
Yeah, plug it in and see.
Yep.
There you go.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Good evening, trustees. As you're aware, McKenna has been tasked to prepare an update to the Joint Plymouth Community 5-Year Parks and Recreation Master Plan. The last plan was adopted in 2018 with the city. So while the city is pursuing their own update to the plan, the township is working on ours, and then we'll merge the two plans at the end and submit it to the state for approval. So just a little bit of background on why recreation planning is important. The first is that the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, the MDNR, requires that communities have on file a 5-year plan if they want to be eligible for any grant activity. It's also, you can think of it as a capital improvement plan. It doesn't tie funding to the projects that are in the plan, but it gives you a roadmap for what you need to accomplish in the next 5 years in terms of infrastructure for recreation. As you know, you can't budget well and save if you don't know what that looks like down the road, so that's just common sense. As I mentioned, it also ensures that you're eligible for grants. So for instance, in 2016, when the pavilion at McClumpha Township Park was constructed, that was made possible by an MDNR grant. and that's one of the most well-used amenities in the park. Recreation planning is also an opportunity to hear from the community. So we know that recreation is tied to quality of life, and it's what attracts residents and keeps residents. It's one component. So it's important to do this planning process. So in terms of engagement opportunities, there was a community-wide open house back in July. There was a survey that was available for 2 months this summer. In terms of the survey advertisement, it was done through a number of different mediums. There were hard copies here at the township, paper copies. They were also available at the Friendship Station. All the HOAs were notified, the boards and commissions. There was an e-blast. It was advertised on social media. And then the township also created a dedicated email account, recreation@plymouth.twp.org, which still is available if you'd like to email any questions or comments regarding recreation. So I'd just like to take you through a couple of the key themes from these survey results. In total, there were 820 responses, or 840, excuse me. And the survey consisted of 19 questions that range from ranking priorities to multiple choice and then open answer. So in terms of the existing facilities, respondents were asked to rank on a number of different attributes. So the variety, the cleanliness, availability, and access. So overall, the cleanliness and maintenance of facilities were the highest rated aspects of the parks, followed by the variety and availability of public spaces where people want to spend time. But the lowest aspect rated was the connectivity of sidewalks and the connectivity of bike lanes. And we'll see that follow through the presentation results. In terms of the most visited park spaces, Township Park, McClunfa Park ranked the highest, which I think comes at no surprise. Golfview Park, the most recent addition to parkland in the township, that triangle piece at Ann Arbor Trail and Beck, though that was the second in tie with Lake Point Soccer and the golf course itself. So that was nice to see that folks are using that new space that the township board has dedicated. The neighborhood parks, Brentwood and Miller family, were the least visited, and then Friendship Station. So in terms of some of the themes that we heard, these are quotes throughout the plan that we've just kind of pulled from that folks had left, and then the key theme is in the red box. So active transportation, additional means of access to township parks with bike lanes, paths, and filling the sidewalk gaps. So it was often noted that it's not just access to parks from neighborhoods, but between parks to downtown Plymouth, schools, etc. And it's one thing to think of recreation or biking and walking as just a recreation activity, but it's also social and it's also a mode of transportation. So by improving this, it's really improving the quality of life in a lot of different aspects. It was also a theme that investments and improvements should be made to existing park facilities instead of adding on new. So that really speaks to the age of some of the infrastructure. I think several comments throughout the survey were tied to the wooden play structure. That's an example of something that is really outdated. It is not accessible. It's unusable for folks that have a disability. 11% of residents in the township self-report that they have a disability. So this is an example of something that is not inclusive in the township and could be improved with this plan and with state funding. Dog-friendly parks. This was another common theme. So there was a specific question related to this. If dogs should be allowed on leashes in township parks, and 63% expressed interest in having the ability to walk their pets in the parks. These are just a couple quotes to support that. The township is the only municipal community in this area that doesn't allow dogs in the parks on leash.
Is that true?
Yep.
Pardon, say that again?
Plymouth Township is one of the only communities in the area that doesn't allow dogs on a leash in the parks.
We're the only one, neighbors us.
And even beyond that. Some other themes, just expand the variety of recreational opportunities. So pickleball was mentioned a number of times, a community pool, which, communities are not constructing these days as a public amenity, dog parks, nature trails. But this also means year-round programming and use of public spaces. So that's why there's that picture of Hines Park in the winter. Also, joint effort with the city of Plymouth was recommended. So thinking about parks in the Plymouth community and not just township parks, kind of regional, on a more regional scale, as it relates to programming and connectivity. 57% of respondents did support a joint recreational authority to kind of pull together all the amenities and resources in the area.
With taxing
Yeah.
ability is what it asked. The question said, with taxing ability.
Did it say that in the question?
The question, I can read the question if you want. It specifically asked if a joint recreation authority would be supported with the potential of a future millage. Yeah.
Yeah,
This would likely require a dedicated millage and a separate recreation commission.
interesting. 57%. That's pretty good.
Yep.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So this isn't saying that that's going to happen, but it was to kind of just take the pulse and see what's out there. Keep in mind as well that the city of Plymouth is doing their own survey as part of this.
So what City of Plymouth is doing right now, they've hired Epic MRA, which is a major polling firm out of Lansing. I'm sure they're paying them a very large sum of money for that service. And what they're doing is a more in-depth poll. And that's primarily because City of Plymouth does have a millage on their ballot this year in November, which is solely dedicated for city-specific projects. And so I think it's prudent for them, if you're going to have something, a tax increase on the ballot, it's probably prudent for them to go the route of a more detailed poll.
Is that Steve Mitchell, Epic MRA?
No, that's Bernie Porn.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so we took a different attack. So at the end of the day, though, and I think Laura will get to this, that we will be eventually merging our data for the updated joint recreation plan.
Mm-hmm. There were a couple questions about the environment as part of the rec plan, because it's also about natural features. And the top 5 challenges are noted on the screen. The first 3 are all related to transportation. So the top concern was congestion and traffic on the roadways, but then the second and third priority were related to walking and biking paths within the township, and then to outside communities, to other areas. So those 3, by providing more walkability in the community and outside the community, you are alleviating that road congestion and just providing different modes of transportation. So those 3 are all very intricately connected, and by making improvements in 2 and 3, you will be improving 1. The 4th and 5th priorities, the removal of existing woodlands and the quality of rivers and lakes. Those are more natural feature specific. And then there are a couple questions about what amenities residents would like to see. The top one was more walking paths. People acknowledged the recent efforts that the Township Board has made to bridge some of those gaps on North Territorial and along Lilly and Main, but that there's still ways to go. The second priority was more bike paths and bike lanes, permanent restrooms at facilities. Folks did mention that because the township parks, especially McClumpha Park, is so large and centrally located, that most folks, and because there's not that connectivity, that they have to drive there. And if they're driving there and parking, then it's a bit of a ways from their home, and they likely would need to use a restroom. So they wanted to see improvements to those restrooms.
Permanent restroom, does that mean year-round or what?
Yes, so not a porta potty.
Correct, but also restrooms that the township would have to maintain year-round? Because
Correct.
currently we do lock them for the season.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, and improved accessibility, that was mentioned as well in the existing restrooms. Pickleball courts, and then community gardens. So those are the top 5. So as far as next steps, the MDNR, the state.
Excuse me, did they talk about sufficiency of the number of soccer fields and things like, because I'm past that with my kids, so I don't know what that situation is like now.
There were a number of comments about additional soccer fields.
Still an issue.
They always want more soccer fields.
Yeah. So a 30-day review period is required by the state, so that would take place in November and December. That's an opportunity for the public to review the draft. It will be online, it will be here at Township Hall, it will be at the Friendship Station. And folks can comment using this Recreation at Plymouth TWP email again. There will likely be a joint township and city meeting sometime in November. As this is a joint plan, that would be a best practice. That date is to be determined. And then looking at adoption by this body, December 12th. The plan does need to be fully adopted and submitted to the state by February 1st. So ideally, this would be adopted in January. And then it will last you 2024 through 2028.
Would you be willing to have the verbatims of the comments available during that 30-day period?
Yes, I should have mentioned that. So as part of the draft plan, the appendice does include all of the raw survey data. So that entire 80-some pages is available.
All right, so comments will be available.
Yes, all the specific data. It's not, there's no names that are associated with that, right? It's anonymous, but.
So how will it be? Will it be like a page for every verbatim?
Nope.
Or you'll just summarize them line by line?
It looks
Okay,
just like
that.
this, like
All
a
right.
printout.
And we did that last time.
Yes.
Yep, all that's in there. Yep, so if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them, or we could talk offline about any specifics in the plan. If you have questions, you can use this email. You can come into the township and discuss it with me any morning. And thank you for the technical.
I also did want to mention that the general fund budget, I believe we're setting aside $250,000 or $300,000 again next year for sidewalk gap project. Now, we don't have the federal money this time to match that, but and I don't want to put Jeremy, the engineer, on the spot because he's not here, but I do believe that because of this continued commitment that we have to the sidewalk gap program with our own money, that we could continue to get match possibly from the state under some kind of recreation funding, similar to what we did on Ann Arbor Road this year with the, I don't know, $600,000 grant that we got for that project. So hopefully, this can help us leverage more funds in the future.
Since we have the data on dogs, and it is one of our goals this year, if you looked at it, we can move on allowing dogs anytime. I urge us to consider that. 2 years ago, we attempted it and it was resoundingly defeated, but we have some new data now. Most importantly is that every other community in the vicinity allows dogs. At that last time, 2 years ago, we were told incorrectly that Livonia did not allow dogs, but they've allowed dogs for many years. And they have the largest number of parks of any community on the west side of Detroit.
And they also have a huge dedicated millage for recreation.
Yeah, but a dog, is not recreating, is on the leash.
But they have to, unfortunately, not everybody cleans up after their dog, so. But we'll have that discussion.
When can we have that discussion? We don't have to wait till this gets approved.
I don't know, I think we should wait for.
Why wait?
No, we're not doing anything tonight.
Well, no, that's not what I'm asking. Okay. I'm saying, let's do it before February or before December.
Okay.
It takes no engineering, it takes no consulting, you can just do it.
I think you should also, as part of your research, I think you should also talk to our park staff.
I know, they
Eric
came here
Anderson,
last
so,
time, we had
yeah.
the lowest level employee in the township came here and said that it was a dumb idea. So we know that they're going to always say no, but we make the decisions, not the park staff.
Did the survey ask yes or no, whether to allow dogs, or were that just comments?
No,
It asks
there
a
was
specific question.
Yeah, there is a specific question if dogs should be allowed on a leash in township parks.
So how many said no?
Let me find it.
37% said, 63 says yes, 37 must have said no?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Laura. So we're going to move on now to item H3. This is budget deliberations, general fund, with a special emphasis on elections. So I think we should start with let's introduce our new finance director, Elizabeth Cuddy.
Elizabeth, just please, just stand up.
She's going to
Yeah.
stand up and wave. There you go. Welcome to the show. And then I don't.
What is her name again?
Elizabeth Cuddy.
Elizabeth Cuddy.
Elizabeth Cuddy, with a K.
Yep. So do we want, how do we want to do this, Jerry?
Well, I think the main emphasis is really going to be on elections. If you look at some of the other items in here, other departments, you see they're pretty much going along the lines of kind of inflation costs. I think Treasury's only up, what, 4%, Bob?
Yeah, just not to digress, but
Yeah.
have you heard anything about if we commit our ARPA funds by the end of the year, we get an extra 1% in the summer? Have you heard this?
I haven't
I have not
that.
heard that. Our ARPA funds have either been spent or are
yeah,
committed.
committed.
I gotta do some more research.
If they give us a bonus at the end of the year, that would be great.
Yeah, sorry, Jerry, I digress.
No, that's okay. And of course, Elizabeth has only been here for a couple of weeks. She's getting her feet wet, and she is, learning our BSNA system and working very closely with Carol and Mary Ann and getting up to speed on everything. So I would ask that if anyone has any specific questions on any budget item, that we start there. But of course, the big change and one of the driving factors in the budget, notwithstanding police and fire, is going to be elections, and that is brought about by the exceptional changes in both the Constitution for the state of Michigan, where there was a vote to allow 9 days early voting, and then also the kind of corresponding legislation that goes along with that the legislature has passed. So really, what you're looking at is a big increase in the election budget.
How big is it by percent?
Oh, probably 400% or 500%.
500% budget increase.
Yeah.
Do we know how many dollars it is?
Well, it's
I'm talking about versus the last time we had an election.
If you look at the changes from like 22 to now.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you're
It's 500%.
Yeah, 500%.
So that's 5 times the budget.
The budget, yes. And that's brought about by the early voting and the requirements that go along with the early voting. I included in the package there was a survey that was done by the state requesting input from the clerks across the state, and I've included that in there for you. And of course it demonstrated what the clerks' concern were across the state. The state, of course, has set aside allegedly millions and millions of dollars for this process, and we're all of us clerks are hopeful that that all that money is going to flow appropriately to the end users, and that's us, the clerks, for bearing these costs.
So if Plymouth Township expends the money, then it's possible the state, when they find their bearings, will reimburse?
Yes.
And I notice there's a grant in here also.
Do we want to maybe start at the top?
You can, yeah.
So start at revenues at the top.
Start at revenues at the top.
Basically, property tax revenues will be up. You see a change in the second and third line.
Second and third line, right.
That's because of the way it was classified last year. That's not accurate. But if we skip on down and hit some of the highlights, we have a total of revenue is expected to be up by 9% next year.
Correct.
To a total of wait a minute, that's not right.
property tax revenue, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, to a total of 20.1 million, and that's all sources of revenue.
That's everything.
So, the most significant things on there, I think, are, we're supposed to complete the sale of the DPW property, which is 300,000.
That lump sum is due in March, approximately, or June?
Sometime, I think, in the middle of the year.
I would say middle of the year.
So
late
June.
summer.
All right.
We have kind of some dogs and cats in there. Nothing else is jumping out at me at the moment.
Will you show us the line and your assumptions for interest income in 2024 for the general fund? You break it up by fund, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So show me that, please.
I'm looking for it.
Right now, I'm on page 66, which is the first page, 66 of 143.
Interest income right here.
Yep.
What page is it? Or-
The assumption for the general fund is that it will be 409,000, is that right? Is this the right column?
Yeah, 24.
Yeah.
So interest income's in the
light
middle of the
blue column.
page 67.
Yeah, let me see here if I just,
Highlight it right there.
and, so interest income is
There you
here. So it should be, the assumption is 409,000. That's out of general, 400,000 out of in the general fund.
What is your approximate assumption of the average annual interest rate? How did you get to that number?
4.5%.
Pardon?
4.5.
4.5. And the principal changes drastically, right? Throughout
Well,
the year.
as the principal goes up, then so does the interest.
But it goes up and then it gets down when you pay out.
You don't really.
When you distribute taxes and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it varies through the year, but you don't, taxes are dispersed, almost as soon as they come in.
You don't hold them 30 days?
No, you're
Like
not.
15 days.
By law, they have to be dispersed within 10 days, 10 days after the end of the period. So the period is every 2 weeks. So there'll be a lot of money in the tax account for a short period of time, but not for long. It tends to be fairly flat over the, as you see in those reports that I send out. So that's in the general fund. The assumption was 4.5 on that. So if we scroll down to Board of Trustees is, I think it was Carol, wasn't it some movement of why that's down
About what page is that on?
5% for appropriations? That was on.
I can't read those numbers from here definitively.
I know, they're pretty small up there. That says 72,000 because, we had a capital outlay this year.
Right.
That was for this room,
That's right.
Yeah. So moving on to Township Supervisor.
This room, it was coming from PEG funds?
Peg fees, yeah.
PEG fees. Township Supervisor is basically flat. There's a little bit of adjustment in, in wages across the board and people costs. I think 80% of our costs are people related.
Exactly.
Across the board, so, it tends to, there's not a lot of variability, there's not a lot of discretion. If you move on to accounting and finance, that's flat, about 1%.
What page are you on now?
71.
71. And no major things. We had some savings because of part of the year where we didn't have that position filled.
For about 6 months.
For about 6 months. Clerk's office is about 4% increase, and largely that's accounted for where, Jerry?
That 4% includes the 500% for elections?
No, election's a separate budget. Separate.
The defined contribution, you have some increase in wages, that's right.
Yes.
Then moving on to IT. IT is a little bit,
What page now?
74.
I can't keep up with you, I'm not that smart, so hold on.
I'm going in order, so you should just flip the page.
I know, but
Just stop me if you have some questions.
okay, I'm stopping you.
Okay.
So,
And
what line are we on now?
we're on IT, Department 228.
Page 74.
On that, okay, 228, Department, 228, right? Information technology?
Yes.
Right.
And so which line in there are we looking at, discussing?
Well, usually, I've just been dropping to the bottom with the total appropriations. IT is a little bit, this is the apportionment of dollars that are directly consumed by the IT department, but there's allocations back to each department for its IT services.
Exactly.
So departments get their phones allocated and computers are allocated. So this is basically the portion that is strictly the IT piece of it. So that's pretty flat, 1.4%. Board of review, that's, what do you,
Next page.
$500 change over the year, so that's not even worth spending any time on. Treasurer's office is 4%. It was wages and, postage is up.
Yes.
Printing services are up. Postage is expected to rise, and there's, one thing that I'm working on that, is a longer term project is to look at, what we can do electronically in terms of delivery of reminders and bills, but that's a longer term thing that I'll talk about at some other time. Because postage is getting high and, we send out reminders. After September 14th, we had to send out 600 reminder letters, so that's, that's 700.
So 600 parcels did not pay on September 14th.
Right, correct. So we sent out reminder letters the following Monday, but that's a cost, and if we can do some of that electronically, I think we can save some cost over time.
You have to have their email address then?
Yeah.
Is that state law, or is that a courtesy?
I'm incubating the idea, so
No, I'm just saying about sending a reminder letter.
That's courtesy.
No, it's courtesy.
I'm asking, I'm just.
Oh, sorry.
I just want Bob to answer the question.
No, it's courtesy.
Okay, thank you.
And it's also part of collections.
Yeah, you get a lot of calls, a lot of people just forgot. So assessing.
Hold on, before you go away from treasurer's office. My dog license idea of raising the price, which has been the same for 40 years, and selling them at the veterinarians. I've talked to at least one veterinarian, they say they'd love to do that. In Livonia, they sell them allegedly through veterinarians.
Yeah, I think it would create a cash handling problem. I don't know of, I'm not sure. I haven't really looked into that, to be honest. We haven't really talked about increasing the licenses. I think the nominal charge for licenses does encourage people to register them, and I know a lot of people don't.
Well, we only are registering like 800 dogs.
Yeah.
And there's probably 6,000 or 7,000.
At least. I see them going door to door.
Well, if we want to put them,
houses.
if we want to have dogs on leashes, maybe this might be an incentive, right?
Well, it would be good to know that people are
Be good to know.
licensing their dogs.
Yeah, well,
Anyway.
I agree.
I don't want to create extra work, but I think that it can be done by, if the veterinarians agree, they buy X number of licenses from you, they pay you, and then if they don't sell them, then we refund them the money.
Okay.
Something, maybe Livonia has figured out how to do it, some silver bullet, I don't know.
I don't know. Assessing is outsourced to Wayne County Assessing. They have a projected increase in their professional and contractual services. I don't know the details on that.
I believe their contract is coming up next year.
Next
so
year.
They're probably gonna ask for at least a 5% increase.
Yeah.
Well, they have a 3% annual rider, I think, now in the current contract.
Something like that, yeah.
Then we go to general government. Let's see what in here is highlightable.
What is that typically?
So that includes stuff that is, let's see, what's in here again? Professional and contractual services, so all our audit,
Yes.
Legal planning, no.
yeah, economic development, tree planting, audit, township, our outsourced engineering services.
So economic development, you're allocating $8,000 for 2024?
Yes.
And nothing was spent in 2023?
Small amount.
I think he invoiced us like $300.
Gary Heitman. Thank you. I don't know, my judgment is we should think about cutting that one.
All right, everybody, this
All
is
right.
this isn't a free-for-all, okay?
Legal services, let's see, we have a revenue shortfall at the district court.
That's right.
Which is hitting us this year and it's gonna hit us again next year, so that's a big impact in that.
How much is it this year? And
170.
projection?
Was it 270?
It was 200
But
something.
the year isn't over yet.
No.
But that's the
That's the
projection.
projection for the year.
270, and where is it for next year on here? Where do we look? Which,
It was projected at 120.
whoa, that's way down then. Do we need to make an adjustment to that, or do you think that something big is gonna happen in 2024 that's going to reduce the 270?
I don't know, Finance Committee's meeting next week. I'm not sure, how'd that 120 come in?
I think it was like from.
You show me the
We
line.
took like 22 and then added to it over here, 120.
I'm trying to find it here.
Hopefully,
Court service, oh, I
hopefully
see.
more tickets are gonna get written,
But
like it was.
that's like,
Pre-COVID, but.
we're cutting it in less than half, going from 270 to 120.
Well, why don't we review that with the Court Finance Committee?
Yeah, we'll review that, we'll make a note to review that
The
one.
other thing that is no secret to the board is that Judge Lowe will not be seeking re-election next year, so I think there is great interest by most of the communities to eliminate that position legislatively, but that's going to have to be done fairly quick.
But that won't affect us for 2024.
No guarantees.
No,
No, it won't, but,
because
I mean,
he'll
if
be
we're
served
serious
till the end
about
of the
cutting
year.
costs in the court, that's a great place to start. Especially since the volume is not what it used to be, and I don't think it will be in the future.
There's some other shared services cost in the contractual services.
Right.
Under computer services that
Right.
is rising. And retiree medical insurance, OPEB continues to rise, so we have a placeholder in for that.
Right.
That's the 250? Well, no,
Yeah.
that's the one-time, the 250 is our regular annual.
This year we did 379 because we did the 250
Yeah,
plus the one.
Plus the 129
Right.
or 129.
So we're back to the 250.
Back to the
Back to the
250.
250.
Yes.
Again, that's something we can think of there with OPEB is attestation for employees who retire at 50 and go to work somewhere else, get their insurance somewhere else, and then come back to us when they quit or get fired or whatever. That could save probably $100,000 to $200,000.
Okay.
Now to elections.
Now we get.
Are we
into-
there yet?
Yes, we're here. This
Well,
is-
where's building is not in here?
It's
building's
behind
coming
it.
It's after.
It's after elections?
Yeah,
Elections.
yes.
You want to leave elections and come back to it later, Bob, or what?
It's up to Jerry.
Yeah, well, I just thought we'd just address it now. I wanted to get it out of the way because it's the largest, significant increase, I said, outside of, public safety. And this is due to the changes in the law, as I said earlier. And we did request from the state about $225,000 in a grant for various aspects of the election process, which had to do with rent for the voting place, internet, video cameras, computers. We had to buy, of course, new election equipment. As you can see in the documents that are talking about the grant, you see highlighted here on that first page, the kind of.
What's the page number at the
I'm
bottom?
gonna show you, just 1 second. I'm gonna show you on page 124. And these are just pointers that go to what are some of the costs coming to us. Precinct tabulators cannot be used in one location for early voting and then for the polling places. So we're going to have 9 days of early voting, and then on election.
Consecutive days, right?
Yeah, 9 days.
Say again?
9 days.
It's 9 consecutive days,
Nine
so it's 2
consecutive,
weekends.
2 weekends. So it's Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, off Monday, and then Tuesday, we go back to the regular precincts. And this is something we tried to get the legislature to change, and they didn't.
Say that again.
So by
cycles.
law,
Yeah.
we vote, we have to vote we have to have a central location.
Yes, we have
For
to have
nine-
it for 9 days.
For 9 consecutive days, including 2 weekends, including 2 Sundays.
Okay.
And in that one location, it's not one precinct, it's all 12 precincts.
Right.
All 12 precincts will be voting there, which is one of the reasons we can't use the Friendship Station.
Why is that?
Is because the Friendship Station is the smallest facility, and it's the fewest number of voters. And in a regular presidential election, it is about 350 people vote in that location. Under this scheme, you're going to have about half of the people, we're estimating, we don't know until it all happens, but I'm estimating that half of the people are still gonna vote absentee. I hope more do, but just
So 50% absentee.
okay, and we have 24,000 voters, and the whole design of this voting scheme is to increase turnout. In 2020, we had a 10% increase in turnout. We're going to eclipse that this time because it's designed, the scheme itself is designed for more and more people to vote. And we're going to get into that a little bit. So all 12 precincts can come to this voting place, and you don't know when they're going to show up.
So there's 3 parts to this.
Yes.
There's absentee voting as we're accustomed to, sorry.
No.
There's the 9-day early voting, which is part B, and part C is the regular election day voting, right? So you got to think of those as 3 distinct bodies of work.
And so we can't use the same equipment that we're using at the early voting in the precincts. And the reason is because those tabulators have to stay sealed and can't be accessed for a count until 8 p.m. on election day. So we have
8 p.m., not 7 a.m.
7 p.m., 8 p.m. when the polls
At the
close.
close of the poll.
At the close of polls, we go back to the early voting position, location, and then access all those tabulators and do the readings on them and have the closing
So
process.
you don't bring the tabulator in here?
No, they stay locked up there. They stay locked up, and then you can't open them as far as getting the information out of them. You can't look at what the tabulation is.
So at night, that'll be from the weekend, from Sunday, it'll be blocked up.
Yes.
All day Monday.
Yep. All day Tuesday.
And all day Tuesday.
Yes.
Who will be watching it?
It'll be locked up. And we're gonna have video cameras. I'm gonna have video cameras on the inside and video cameras at the outside. That's part of the expense of all this. And so, you've created a situation here where you're going to have to spend tons of money in order to do this process. And so, like I said.
I still think you can
What?
do it easier at Friendship Station. You can,
No, you
you
can't.
control that building.
No, Chuck, I'm not gonna argue with on this because remember, you got 12,000, about 11 to 12,000 people that are gonna show up in those 9 days. That's what you have to plan for, okay? And that means that's 1,200 people per day. At Friendship Station, in a 13-hour day, we handle 350.
But you don't, that's a huge number. I don't expect them to be walking in 1,200 a day.
Chuck?
When we
They
have
might
the
all
week-
come
when
on
we
the
have
same day.
Well, hold on. When we have the weekend voting here, in the old days, you could come in here and walk in and vote. You had very few people.
Chuck,
So can't you use that as a benchmark?
No, Chuck. The benchmark is you're going to have 11,000 people that could potentially vote in the 9 days. That's 1,200 people per day.
Math.
It's
You
math.
could potentially have all of those people voting absentee or coming in here and voting using an absentee system.
I hope they do, but Chuck, I can't.
But you don't know.
I don't know.
Well, yeah, we do. We've got, hold on,
This-
we've got some experience from previous elections.
Yeah, and
No, we don't.
not
Well,
like
wait a minute.
this.
On Saturdays,
That's different. That's, you got apples and oranges there. That is just.
Sure?
It is, because that is just an extra day that people come in to vote. That law is going away now, okay? That's an
can't come
old
in on
state.
Saturday anymore?
We're not gonna do that. Well, you're gonna be voting on Saturday because you go to the early
But
voting.
so you go early voting and you actually vote and put it in the
The
Dominion
tabulator,
machine?
yes.
Not like submitting an absentee ballot in an envelope?
It's just
Manual
like
ballot.
regular voting, except the potential is you've got 12 precincts showing up at one spot. And the reason we have one spot is because if I had 2 spots or 3 spots, I'd still have to have enough tabulators to have 12 precincts voted each one of them. And so one is to limit the cost, because now I have to buy 5 new tabulators, okay, in order to handle that volume coming through. Really, I'm using 4. I've got 1 as a backup. On each one of the elections that I've done here, 7 of them.
So you're saying parking is the critical path because you're still only going to have one machine at Risen Christ,
But
correct?
hang
No,
on,
no.
Jerry,
I've
some.
got-
How many
something
machines
just
will you have
said.
at Risen Christ to vote?
Does each precinct have to have its own scanner?
No. I'm gonna have multiple precincts at each scanner. I'm gonna have 3 precincts per scanner.
Okay.
And because you can't have one, I mean, you would get a backup log of people.
No, the reason I was asking is I didn't know if each one had to have its own.
No,
because
no.
Each ballot could be different.
Well, each ballot is going to be different.
Yeah.
Each ballot's gonna be just like election day.
No, I'm talking about early voting.
That's what I mean, early voting
Early voting,
is the same as election day voting, except for it's early.
so the setup will have how many tabulators?
4 tabulators,
4 tabulators?
4 computers to check people in.
Okay.
Okay, and you're gonna have more people at that precinct because of that, workers, you're gonna have 20 people there, working.
So-
It's an 8-hour day,
So your setup at Risen Christ
yes.
is a fixed number. So the critical path is the parking. Because you're gonna have the same setup. whether you-
Staff, parking,
Yeah, right.
tabulators, space.
Space. I gotta have space. I can't, Friendship Station is not big enough to do that. To have 4 tabulators, 4 tables with computers, and then have a line of people coming in. Remember, you set these things up for the worst case scenario, which is November. And it's going to be the largest turnout in the history of the country, and it's going to be the largest turnout in the history of Michigan, and it's going to be the largest turnout in the history of Plymouth Township. The design of this system is to get every potential voter out to vote. So we're going to end up with the largest percentage of voters ever. We got 10% more last time, simply because the Democrats did a very good job of turning out the vote. We ended up with 2,400 more voters in 20 than we did in 16. This is going to be another jump like that. And I have to, because the state law says I have to have these 9 days, I have to presume that the majority of people are going to vote on those 9 days, and maybe very few on election day. Or someone may wait for that, but I don't know until I do it. But I have to use my best judgment in saying, I'm gonna have 1,200 people show up at this poll each day. Now, I think you'll probably get more on the weekend than on the weekdays. Again, you don't have a facility in the Friendship Station that can handle that kind of parking or handle the number of people coming in inclement weather. You have people stringing out the door. You can't use the Baptist church for the same reason. People will be out in the parking lot when it's snowing in February, and they're gonna be mad at Chuck because I'm gonna tell him you told him to go there. And so that's not gonna happen. It's not a big enough space. And at the space we use at the Church of Nazarene, again, is a small space. And
Well, you also got to remember that there's 2 Sundays, and churches have services on
So
Sundays.
what will you do at Risen Christ when they have the service?
It's a
Because
separate area.
it's on the other side of the building, and it's a small, if 100 people show up there, that's a lot,
I mean, 100 people at the church
at the church. Yeah,
for the service.
for service, yeah. So you're not gonna have a parking problem there. And so,
Isn't it a separate entrance?
it's a separate entrance. We're gonna be on the west side of and there'll be plenty of parking there and plenty of space in order to operate and have a good, simple, I think, administration of the electoral process. And so we can't use the same tabulators. We can't use the same electronic poll books, which are the computers you see where we check people in. So we bought 5 more of those, okay? And so all of this starts adding up. And so I have to buy more ballot boxes, the ballot boxes that we seal up. I have to buy a dozen more of those. And all of this stuff adds up over time. And I have asked for the state to give me $228,000 for this process. Now, that's not all of it. That's just what I can ask for, okay? And they may or may not give me all of that. There's going to be other costs that are associated that you don't see in this document. For instance, and I've highlighted it on one of the bills here. 60 days before the election, I have to mail out all of my absentee ballot request forms. Right now, there's about 12, maybe 13,000 where I have to mail them out automatically, okay? Now, at 40 days, everybody who has not returned those, I have to call them. I have to have people manning the phones, making phone calls. And you know what the number usually is?
By law, you have
By
to
law,
remind them?
I have to call them. I have to email them. I have to text them.
The
I have to
masses
send them
almost
letters.
always get it wrong for having voted for that proposition.
So I'm gonna have to staff people to make phone calls. And let me tell you now, folks, at 40 days before the election, historically, only half of the absentee applications have come back. So if I send out 12,000 applications, I've got to make 6,000 phone calls starting 40 days before the election. And you remember how long it took me to do 6,000 emails? Imagine it's going to take me longer to do 6,000 phone calls or emails. They don't even have the system set up in the qualified voter file in order for me to do that. As far as I know, I'm going to have to create some sort of log.
Where do you get their phone number from?
From the qualified voter file. But not all of them have it. So I've got to have people doing this day and night until we contact everybody. On top of that, if they make a mistake, even if they send it in, they might make a mistake on the application. Then we have to call them and say, did you want a Republican or a Democrat ballot, or did you want a nonpartisan one because you forgot to check it? Okay.
So this is the some summary of your comments is this is the explanation for the $300,000 in wages for employees, because you're gonna have to hire a big staff.
Exactly. Not only that, now I have to send out new cards to people, new voter registration cards to 24,100 people to let them know where the early voting location is. By law, I've got to mail those out. That's not in the cost here, okay? So my mailing cost is going to probably triple whatever's in here. Additionally, after the election, anybody who sent a ballot in that didn't sign it, or we question the signature, if they haven't come in and changed it or proved who they were, they have 6 days to come in and to make the ballot good, which means I have to call them.
And their vote counts?
And their
6 days
vote will
later?
count 6 days afterwards.
This is a copy of California's law.
So in 2020, we had 500 ballots that we questioned the signature or someone didn't sign it. We had to call all those people. Half of them came in. So 250 of them didn't come in. So now I got to keep that 250, which would be 1% of the voters. I have to continue to call them, and their vote may count. And could you imagine in a close election how that might change the outcome of election? Talk about lawsuits. Talk about.
Yeah, you haven't even talked about what happens if there's a recount going on.
That's what I mean. This may cause a recount. And so they have made all kinds of rules that I have to obey, okay? And that's what I'm gonna do.
I say we go back to a kingdom.
And it's going to cost a lot of money. So there's a lot of things that I have to do. That's the reason it's cost so much, but I don't think this is enough. This is kind of like my best guess estimate of what I think it's gonna cost.
What happened to Kermit?
You went to the bathroom.
Yeah, so it's just going to cost more money, and there's nothing we can do about it. These are the rules, and so that's why we've selected the location we did.
What kind of persons are you looking for poll workers? I mean, are these people going to have computer experience now
Well, no,
more than ever?
Well, we're going to have people at the early voting station to have good computer skills, because they're going to be doing a live system with the qualified voter file. That means I have to bring them in and train them on the qualified voter file that you can't have access to unless you're trained and certified by the state, because it has to be live. If someone comes and votes on the first day of the 9 days and it doesn't get into the system that they voted, they could go vote someplace else. They could go get an absentee ballot. So it has to be a live system so that we know that they did that. The live system works for us when someone gets an absentee ballot. The system knows that. If you tried to show up at the voting location, it would say, no, Jerry already got an absentee ballot, he can't vote. So the system has to work like that. And so we're going to need people who are competent enough to do that. And then am I going to get them for 9 straight days?
Well, that's the worst part. Who is gonna, the only person that's gonna take a job for 9 days is somebody that's maybe a senior and retired, and do they have the energy to come for 9 days?
Nine straight, no, it's
Who's
8
gonna take a
hours, not
job for
13.
9 days?
So you can see.
No offense, I'm old too.
So
have to pay 'em a lot.
when I'm talking about at the Friendship Station, 350 people voting, that's over a 13-hour period. These are 8-hour days, so your vote per hour is going to be higher. And so that's why you need more space. That's why you need all the things that we're talking about. I just didn't just divine this stuff out of the clear blue sky. And so so there's a lot of laws, a lot of things in the laws have changed. We have to comply with that. I'm going to be coming to the board, hopefully in the next meeting we have, for some budget amendments, because I've got to pull this money forward. Because remember, I've got to send out all those notices. I have to buy new stuff, like all the, now you have free mail it back Postage.
Oh, that too.
Yeah,
You gotta
so-
pay for postage.
We got, postage is free coming back. And so I've got to buy new envelopes with prepaid postage. And that's why I put that example in the.
Who pays for that? Do we? or-
Well, the state is supposed to pay for it. Again, the state's supposed to
We'll
pay
be
for it.
reimbursed, maybe.
Maybe.
The reason that I opted for having the one printed is because that bill goes to the state, not the envelope cost, but the postage goes to the state. Anything else I have to put a stamp on and hopefully get reimbursed.
So
And
the bottom line is your elections budget goes up 500 and, right now, we're thinking 540,000 and, with a possible,
416%.
yeah,
with a possible,
More.
disbursement from the state of the requested 250 to offset that.
yeah, hopefully.
Possibly.
Possibly, yeah. And remember, this is going on all over the state. And if you think that they're gonna be worried about little old Plymouth more than they're worried about big old Detroit, you know, imagine their costs are going to be astronomical, you know, so.
Well, and again, it's like, you know, the staff, I mean, we're getting a little off track, but the staffing, you know, you got a staffing issue, you have security issues, you got.
And we can't use this space because this is where we do our absentee ballots.
You have to do the absentee boards in here? I mean,
We have to
there's
do
only
the
so
absentee
much
boards here. They
space.
can't, we can't do the voting here.
We're actually thinking of, in the next couple of meetings, we're gonna have to adopt the 2024 meeting agenda.
Exactly.
We're actually looking at probably having a couple months where we just have one meeting here, because this is going to be.
Have it out at the pavilion in the park like the city does.
We could do it at the park. It's gonna be, could be, yeah, it'd
So,
be nice.
so that's the reason the budget looks like it does. There's still a lot of things in work coming from the
your dog.
legislature and also from the
Bring
Board
your
of Elections. They still haven't promulgated all the rules for process and procedure. They've promised those to us, but they're not here yet.
We don't even know when they're gonna have elections for sure.
Well, they have to, if they don't retire in about a
In
month.
recess,
Yeah, recess, if they don't recess, then.
what date do they have to recess to have a February?
I think it's gonna be in
presidential?
October sometime,
Late October.
late October.
Well, they're not gonna do that.
I mean, they're
right?
gonna, no, there's gonna be a February primary.
Yeah.
The big question is whether or not there's gonna be a June primary for everybody else.
And you
I
can-
don't think that's gonna happen
But the
personally.
legislature is still contemplating that. You saw the letter from Mike Seacrest to the school board, saying, listen, we got to coordinate with you. We've got some changes here that we don't really know what the answer is, so we need your cooperation in order to have that election day voting at those locations.
To which the school district's response is that we've got our calendar.
Well, we've got a
set.
calendar all made up.
They have their calendar set. People have made, you know,
But what I'm
vacation
sa-
plans based on
Yeah,
school
yeah.
calendar.
It
What
also
chaos
makes, I
and
mean,
incompetence the state of Michigan has done. Plus, the voters really kicked it off with Proposition 2 by voting,
The-
2/3 of the population voted yes.
It sounded good.
a June primary also raises a huge number of issues as far as petition gathering.
Yeah.
To get your name on the ballot, you need X amount of signatures in many cases still, and they never took that into consideration.
So.
It's like the Incumbency Protection Act. I
It
think,
really is. So I'm going to be coming to you with a request to move large sums of money up for this year because I have to spend the money now. I have to buy the cameras, I have to buy the voting equipment, I have to buy the computers, I have to buy the internet, I have to buy all the other paper, I have to have mailings. I've got to send all this stuff out in a timely fashion to comport with the law, and then just have lots of unknown costs, labor costs, until it actually happens.
So the only good news that I can think of here is that we did sequester or encumber $250,000, correct?
I thought it was 200,000.
200,000, that was specifically earmarked for 2024 elections. So it looks like we're probably going to have to blow that entire amount. And then hope that the state will come to the rescue with some funds, but that still is not going to, I mean, this is still going to be a substantial increase in order for us to comply with this new constitutional mandate.
Well, if the state comes through with the money, then, you know, be whole, because we'll have the 200,000.
Hopefully.
No, it's not, I don't think we're gonna be whole. I mean, it's still going to be a triple-digit
There'll be an
expense.
offset.
They're not gonna give us like, they said they would help pay for $15 an hour for some
No, what I
workers.
said is if we took the 200 plus the 250 from
Yeah.
the state.
But there's gonna be, as Jerry just pointed out, there's gonna be a lot of other costs.
Other costs that are not in
That we
here.
still don't even
There's costs that
factor
I
yet.
haven't put in here because it's just too unknown.
And there's still human costs because this is going to be a very complex job now, and we're going to have to hire people and pay them, competitively for a 9-day, mission, so.
Good.
Anyway.
Wanted.
Jerry, do you have anything
9
else?
days and you're fired.
All right, Bob, why don't we come back to the
Yeah, let's,
thing here?
so any other questions on elections, or can we move on to building department?
Yes.
I think everything else is pretty either
Okay.
down or flat or
Building is,
down.
building is down 5.5% on the expense side. Let's see if there's any.
Okay, we replaced the administrator and we still have the old one there. How long will that continue?
Till the end of the year, I think.
Yeah,
So
the office.
December 31?
Yeah, the office administrator, the senior person will be leaving at the end of the year. And then we'll have, the new person will fully assume all
So
of her
expenses will go
responsibilities.
down.
And I think I would hope that that's been reflected here.
Yeah.
This is building and grounds. This is not.
Oh, I'm
building
sorry,
department.
building grounds, yes, that went down as well.
Yeah,
I
this
think.
is building and grounds, sorry. Any questions on building and grounds?
No.
That's down 5.5%. Now, civil service is just the Civil Service Commission.
MMRMA, that's our insurance, that's gonna go up.
Premium is gonna go up 5%.
Which page are you on now?
I'm on Department 272.
86?
I don't have the page number in my screen.
MMRMA goes from,
Goes up 5%.
but you say that's not, it's going to be really more?
I don't know, Kurt, what do you know?
I don't believe so. I mean, we have one litigation matter out there that is a personal injury case that could hit hard, but I think at that point, that would not, it's not like we're gonna pay that whole amount out of pocket. This is an
Is that the one
insurance
in the police
policy.
department?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but right now, for 2024, I think that's a reasonable number. And then,
Police we did before, so I'm skipping past
yeah,
police.
the police fire is all in there too.
Communications we did. Fire we did.
Yeah, sorry firefighters back there. I mean, we did your budget a couple weeks ago,
Jail,
so,
we
okay.
did. Building inspection department, okay,
What page is that on
371,
now?
That's 97?
page 97. So here's the first line is the answer to your question, Chuck. We're expecting a drop of 58,400 in wages. So we're projecting a decline in the building department of 13%, or about $112,000 less in expenditures. With the,
Building department, though, is self-funding.
Yes.
yeah, the revenue stream. There's a
Still-
revenue
still
stream
going strong for
associated
now.
with it. Any questions on building?
I think permit fees are gonna be going up quite a bit in the next couple of years.
Yeah,
Permit revenue, I should say.
Revenue.
with all the building in MITC.
Yeah.
Next section was emergency management. Didn't we cover that one with?
Yes, we covered that last time.
Yeah.
About $30,000.
An offset set of the fire department.
Moving on to Department 441, roads, streets, and safety. So this is an increase primarily in capital outlay. I don't see the notes on that. I don't know what that is.
I believe that's the sidewalk gap project.
Oh, that's sidewalk gap?
She's nodding yes. So I misspoke earlier. I said 250,000, but it's 300,000.
Okay. So was sidewalk gap someplace else in '23? ARPA.
ARPA, yeah.
Otherwise, it's just the dog and cat stuff for the DPW.
That's it. Senior center is,
Slightly up.
yeah, $6,000.
Mostly just for interior building improvements and
Okay.
windows, floors. I mean, it's an old church. It needs to be, updated.
Community
Constantly.
development block grant is no change.
No,
How much are we getting?
What is that?
we just get the $11,500, of which we give most of it to the Council on Aging.
Aging, yeah.
Wayne County manages our CDBG program. However,
Every so often.
there may be, next year, we may be getting a large tranche of $500,000. We're not budgeting for it at this point because we don't want to assume that we're going to get it. But it would have to be spent on a community-specific project that would largely benefit low to moderate income people. And I got some ideas.
So if that's coming, maybe, we should delay any expenditures on Friendship Station.
No.
And take it out of that.
No, that's really not, we're looking at more of a road project like Riverside Drive rehabilitation, something that would involve a large project that would involve a large number of stakeholders such as the city and the county, the city of Plymouth and the county. It has to be something along those lines.
Riverside Drive doesn't qualify for low income.
It services low to moderate income neighborhoods though. As close as we can get.
Next department, 701, is planning, that's flat. Or
They have
it's
not
a
asked for
slight
an,
decline, but
they have not asked for an
basically-
increase or anything. So.
Basically flat. And then ZBA is, ZBA.
It's Z.
Planning Commission is Planning Commission. I mean, these are what they are based on the number of meetings.
So you just mentioned Planning Commission. At one time, last year, we were supposed to have a joint meeting. The board, Township Board, and the Planning Commission. It went off the report list. When is that happening?
We had one a couple of years ago, and
Right.
it just kind of,
Well, it was on the list with all the reports, but with what's going on in the Planning Commission over the last year, I think
Yeah.
it's time to have a meeting.
I think one of the commissioners quit after the meeting last
He did, he
time.
quit immediately after the meeting.
Quit immediately after the
It
meeting.
really did not, it was not a very functional meeting. I think I don't mind meeting with the planning commission, but I think we need to do it in a more relaxed, communicative setting, right? The way we had them all lined up here, it looked like a inquisition, and it didn't go over well.
No.
So then we can do,
It was very awkward.
I think the Planning Commission.
we can have a
would be-
cocktail party, I don't care, but just,
Yeah, I think the Planning Commission would be interested in that because the Planning
I like the
Commission does
cocktail
want
party.
to understand what the Board of Trustees' overall overarching philosophy is. It's a good conversation. We just have to do it in a way that we have to have a different format if we're
Yeah,
going to
it
do it.
really, it didn't work last time.
Yeah.
I mean, we do get tremendous updates from Laura Haw, the planner, and we do get updates from the planning commission quite regularly. But I mean, as far as a face-to-face meeting, it's probably due for that, but we got to come up with a friendlier format.
Okay.
let's just sit out here or stand out here. It's not a rocket science.
You're going to make margaritas? You said
Of
it'll be
our-
Yeah, whatever blows your hair back.
Community in the rural, and the.
Wait a minute, what kind of comment was that?
Parks and Rec, Department 751.
That's gone down, actually.
Parks and Rec.
That is gone.
One thing is,
That's down 30%. Capital outlay.
Because we can't hire anybody.
You mean can't find people?
Yeah.
this is the park itself, or
It's
parks?
all parks operations.
So,
And again, we don't have a recreation department, so this Parks and Recreation in Plymouth Township is mowing the lawns, cleaning the bathrooms, emptying the trash cans, making sure that the sprayscape works, keeping the lights on.
That's I guess that's a good thing, because if we can't hire anybody for that, if we had any more, we'd really have trouble. Since we're on this, I've been trying for 5 years to get the new fascia boards, they're not new anymore, painted, that were replaced. It would be a good idea to paint them.
what fascia boards?
Fascia boards on the pavilions.
On the pavilions.
They're going to rot. We had them replaced, but you need to paint them.
And on the garage area too.
Why don't we talk to Ken McDonald about that?
Yeah.
Ken's really good about
Yeah, he
fixing
is.
stuff like that.
So Parks and Rec is showing a drop in appropriation, primarily because of, this year we had golf carts, or we had, what did we do? Oh, the golf course.
We rented,
project.
we leased the golf carts,
Yeah.
and then we also had very few capital projects for parks in terms of mowers, gators, trailers, hardware expenditures.
Next section is section 905, which is debt service on our general obligation debts.
Yes.
We have, let's see, so Township Hall refinancing goes to 2025.
Right.
Township Park goes to 2030, is it? 2017 was refinanced. I can't, let's see if I can zoom that in a little. My eyesight's
Township Hall GO tax refunding
general
bond.
obligation tax refunding bond goes to 2030. So that's the debt service of the principal on these projects. So you can see after 24, we're going to be, we'll have, 480,000 that we won't be paying.
So what did you, so
So our payments on our debts and bonds are going to be going down as bonds expire.
In the next couple of years.
that's a good thing, pay off your debts, but help me out with these bonds for Township Park that go to 2030, there's two of them? What was,
Yeah, these were remember,
the pavilion?
this was in 2013 when,
Yeah, I remember that. So
yeah.
that's
and
but
it
there's
was
two
like-
of them?
Well, no, one is the interest expense and one's the principal.
Okay, I understand.
So it was the pavilion, it was the parking lot.
It was supposed to be golf course improvements.
Golf course
Yeah.
improvements.
It was the amphitheater.
The amphitheater.
So there was a whole bunch of stuff in there. And that is, we owe $85,000 on that? Is that what that means?
Yeah.
And the Township Hall, we owe just under 500,000. Is that right? It says 475.
470, is that 75 or 95?
All general
No,
operating
that's-
tax, principal to 2025, 480,000.
No, that's the payment. Carol, can you speak to this?
That's the payment for the year, 480,000.
That's not the balance left on the bond.
It's a payment.
Yeah,
Oh, the payment in 2024.
Right.
correct.
Of course, it's under the 2025 line. Forecasted 2025, I see the 480 up there, all right,
Yeah.
yep, I see it.
Let's see, the next debt service on here was, what was this for? Oh, the fire truck, about halfway down. That's year 5 of 10 on the fire truck, on the ladder truck. And
Right.
then, the debt service and the principal and the interest. And that's it for today, right? We're not doing water and sewer.
No, we're doing water and sewer, trash, and senior bus at the next meeting.
I just wanted to bring up, though, remember, we're renting this space for this next year for elections. We really need to have a facility for early voting. It's not going away, folks. It's going to be here with us forever.
Oh, so you're proposing building something or buying
Yeah, in the
something?
future, in the future. And I believe that after this cycle, that the legislature will come to their senses, I hope, and allow us to have all the elections there. So we don't have to go back to the precincts, that on election day, we just stay right where we're at.
What do you mean?
Like right now, I'm going to be having the early voting, and then on election day, I gotta go back to the regular precincts. I'm hoping that in the future, after they see how this works, you may end up with just a handful of people who haven't voted yet on election day, and you've got all this equipment out there, different locations, people working, and why not just have the election day just an extra day onto the
Early voting?
Because you're already got this you're already there.
9 days, vote every day.
Yeah.
Wow, this is just one scary proposition. Not only is it expensive, it's scary to manage and security.
Well, the design is to.
Integrity of voting. Too
the-
many spots for errors.
Yeah, well, we're trying to work on that. And
Too many failure modes.
And I think if we build a facility, we might consider, you know, out at the park where we do own the property, and we can make it a multi-purpose facility, voting on election years, and then a facility that we use for other events.
Okay, any other questions on the general fund budgets? Very good. At this time, 3 minutes for public comment, again.
Marilyn Berteras, supporter of the racetrack proposal. And I'm going to be repeating things that I've said at previous meetings because the opposition continually repeats their reasons for opposition. I want to emphasize that the racetrack is an entertainment facility which includes gambling. I think most of the people that are objecting to it have never been to Northville Downs. If you go there on a Friday night, there's families with kids on the apron, there's people in the clubhouse having dinner. It's an entertainment facility. There's lots of forms of gambling everywhere now, cell phones, computers, and I think the racetrack would probably be a small minority of the gambling that takes place in the township. As far as the soccer fields, the head of the soccer league testified at spoke at one of the, I think the planning commission meeting, that he was in support because they need more soccer fields. And how the drainage engineering from the track, I'm sure it would be engineered so the drainage would not go on the soccer fields. I would like to clarify what Mary Pine said, what I said at a previous meeting about our live racing dates. I said there are currently 54 days of racing, although Northville Downs just extended this current meet till the end of November, so this year we actually have 70 days because we're trying to get our days in. Probably won't have a facility to race at next year because there was limited purse supply, but we're hoping that with the new facility, it will bring new fans, new people, and we could increase our race dates. The recreation plan that Laura Haw presented said they needed pickleball courts, walking trails, and soccer fields. And those are all things that were included in the Northville Downs the racetrack proposal plan. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else at this time?
Hi, Patty Pozios. I just have a question about the precinct size. Can you hear me? They voted to change it to like 5,000 voters or something, so will we be realigning our precincts next year, or what?
We may be doing that in the future. It'd be almost impossible to do that now with everything going on in order to get all that structure into the state, because all of that data is in the qualified voter file.
Mm-hmm.
And so we would have to make those changes, and then we would have to get all that data into the state, and then they would have to incorporate it. So it's a big move, and I know that a lot of places are probably going to do that. And again, so you can limit the number of places that you have to be. But I think this 9-day voting situation will ultimately turn into just one more day at that location. And it wouldn't matter how many precincts you have,
Mm-hmm.
because they would all be voting at one place.
It affects us as far as delegate counts too. I know before 2022, like Canton did it at the very last minute, and we had some issues and.
Yeah,
for
well, right now,
precinct delegate allocation,
right now, the
so.
size of a precinct is 2,999. And so they were moving that up in hopes of having to have fewer locations to vote,
Mhm.
okay? And thereby maybe reducing the cost in the long run. And we may do that, but that's another, a big lift that we have to do. Matter of fact, we're going to have to vote on this board and on the election commission that we're having this change, that we're having the location for the early voting. So even that has to be done it's done by statute, and then it's done locally, that we have to vote on it, and then you have to notify all those voters again,
That they have a different precinct.
that they have different precincts, so,
And that's a jurisdiction, like, or municipality?
Yeah.
So like Northville could change the number of precincts and we maybe wouldn't.
Hydrogen plant.
Could like Northville Township, for example, say, oh, we're gonna change and we're only gonna have 10, and Plymouth be like, no, we're gonna stay at 12.
yeah.
Okay, we need to know that.
Yeah,
So,
see,
okay.
I think once this all washes out, and I'm just hopeful that when it washes out, that the legislature will say, well, gee, you have so few people voting on actual election day because of absentee voting, as Bob says, Part A, and then Part B is the early voting. So many people, so few people will be voting in Part C, that it makes no sense to do that. You just vote one more day.
I'm more concerned from the precinct delegate
Yeah.
perspective, because we have
Yeah.
to do the calculation.
Yeah.
Okay, great timing. Anybody else? Mr. Pine?
Bill Pine, 45-year township resident. Back again, but I don't want to talk about gaming facilities right now. Just yesterday, I heard that a Norwegian company manufacturing proton exchange membrane fuel cells was talking about putting a $400 million facility in Plymouth Township. From my personal electric vehicle and alternative energy experience, PEM fuel cells are one of the more attractive alternative propulsion technologies emerging today. Batteries without all the downside. Since then, I've spoken with friends at the Department of Energy, California Air Resources Board, MIT, and in the industry, and the description of PEM fuel cell technology is that it's a high-tech, light manufacturing industry. It appears to actually fit the township's master plan and zoning. I don't know if any of you have bothered to drive down Port Keel or Helm Streets in the manufacturing park between Sheldon, Beck, 5 Mile, and M14. That's probably pretty much what we'll be talking about with the PEM facility. It's pretty nice. Also, from my industry experience, a core plant like this typically leads to 6 to 8 satellite businesses that support it with the same characteristics as the central facility, in this case, high-tech, light manufacturing. I'm struck by the potential similarities between us and Silicon Valley. We have close proximity to the University of Michigan instead of Stanford. We have access to the auto big three instead of the defense industry. We have a pleasant place to live in, unless it gets screwed up, and that's just for starters. Silicon Valley is crawling with highly technical, well-educated, leading-edge people with high net worths, causing high property values and the ability to pay for exceptional services. We need to be careful that we don't screw up that type of opportunity. You need to focus on opportunities like this. If you don't push back on some of the, pardon my French, limited initiatives that are being pursued right now, you hurt our chances to become more like Silicon Valley. John, you'll like this. Imagine the difference in driving down M14 and seeing a billboard that says, "Welcome to Plymouth Township, home to 1,500 gaming machines," as opposed to a billboard that says, "Welcome to Plymouth Township, America's fuel cell capital." We want to be more like Silicon Valley, not Lexington, Tennessee.
Okay, thanks. All right, anybody else?
Just a couple quick things. I was at Northfield Downs Saturday night for 3 hours with my wife, and frankly, I didn't see any joy at all. And I don't see people really watching the horses. The simulcast TVs and all the boards are in the opposite direction of where the racing is taking place. So all those people are looking down or looking in the opposite direction. So frankly, I don't see the entertainment with the horses. Now, there were some people out by the track, I give you that, but I didn't see the recreational aspect of it all, and I didn't see joy of those people, and those people that were gambling, frankly, are people that should not be gambling. The other thing I wanted to talk about was Parks and Recs. Are we joint with Plymouth right now, or are we totally separate? Is there an initiative for us to be joint with Plymouth City?
All we have is a joint recreation master plan.
You had also spoke, I believe, about a millage that Plymouth City was contemplating.
It's on their ballot in November.
Does that obligate us at all?
Not at all.
Not at all. So that's not being contemplated for us, a millage increase for Parks and Recs at all?
Sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Very good. Let's start off with board comments. Mr. Stewart.
I have 3 positive comments. I have observed 3 firefighters here tonight sitting throughout the whole meeting, and we have yet to hear from them regarding their concerns. And I have concerns about the staffing, the numbers at each of the 3 stations. I'd like to hear from you at some point in time. Number 2, I want to congratulate the city of Plymouth. As a 40-year resident of Plymouth Township, the rule used to be, and Chuck can support me on this, the city didn't do anything to hurt the township, and the township didn't do anything to hurt the city. The city has a new entertainment center. I want to congratulate Paul Sincock, longtime city manager. He secured a grant from the state of Michigan for over $250,000 for a new stage for music performances in Kellogg Park, due to be installed by May 2024. We're known statewide for the Wednesday noon mom and kids concerts, the Thursday night band concerts, the Friday night. I'm a convert to that as a classical music lover, but that's when I have my friends from out of town come in for Friday night. Dinner outside at Campari's, and you walk across the street, there's 1,000 or 2,000 people in Kellogg Park. As the mayor of Holland told me, we have tulips in Lake Michigan, for Holland, Michigan. We have music, that's our culture. And I want to congratulate Sam Plymouth, all-time high attendance for all the concerts this summer in Kellogg Park. Finally, I guess our supervisor gets to join the governor tomorrow morning in Detroit. Cranes this morning, I don't know, but this is going to be construction at 5 Mile and Ridge. The Cranes article reads that in May, Governor Whitmer met with company executives in person, and there is a Norwegian hydrogen company. Now, this is something that turns me on, because hydrogen and Toyota go together. And think about what we're fostering in that area. And I want to use the metaphor of baseball. Hitting is contagious. Good economic development, like, I'm sure, to use the supervisor's words, I'm sure he will opine on the Norwegian hydrogen company that is coming to Plymouth Township, strategically located, and most of you know that the University of Michigan is a strong emphasis in mechanical engineering and automotive. So M14, and here we are, the hub of hydrogen propulsion and Toyota. So it's exciting, and I'll look forward to the many posts and pictures of our supervisor tomorrow with our governor in Detroit.
John, I looked for that article. Is it in the hard copy of Cranes?
There it is.
You got it offline?
Yeah, I got it right here, yeah.
Okay, I looked for it today in hard copy. I couldn't find it, because I don't subscribe.
Well, the governor's, I mean, I sent all of you the press release from the governor's office, and since then, we've also had articles from MLive, Channel 4, and it's going national at this point.
Is that
But
on the
I'll-
city of Detroit?
I'll talk
What-
more about that.
Hydrogen
You're
is
gonna talk
good.
about that?
I like hydrogen.
Hydrogen is
I
good.
make my own water with it.
There you go. All set? Okay, trustee Buckley?
Yeah, so my only comment really is to commend Clerk Vorva for educating us all on this Prop 2 that you've had to deal with. I mean, what a headache, what a stress. You've been preparing us for this for the last year in terms of what it's going to cost financially, what it's going to cost in terms of manpower. It's all coming to fruition now, and I just wanted to commend you. It's not an envious position to be in, and it's clear that you take it very passionately to uphold the law, to do what's right for, you know, the citizens, and use your best judgments in that, and I just think it's awesome. Tomorrow, we also have our first Veterans Commission meeting tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, so I look forward to letting you guys all know what comes of that at our next board meeting.
Okay, Bob?
Nothing here.
Taxes are coming in pretty good, or what?
Yeah, about, I think we got maybe 400 parcels that have not paid yet. It's
Out of how many?
11,468.
Okay.
Approximately.
Okay, so those parcels are now, they're assessed a penalty until what
Yeah,
time?
so the way it works is you have 1% per calendar month. So 1% in the month of September, October 1%, November 1%, December, January, February, March.
Wow.
If they're not, January, February, and if they're not paid by February 14th, they get turned over to the county. There is one thing, though, that there's probably been at least a half a dozen, including one sizable taxpayer who swears they mailed their checks at the end of August and early September, and we never saw them. So I hate to bash the post office, but I don't recommend using the post office if you're up against the deadline. Also, if you want to know if your tax, the way the process works is that we have a drop box, and then we have online payments, and we have mail that comes into the post office, and that gets picked up every morning, and we process every payment we receive, we process it the day we receive it. So nothing gets, set aside for the next day or something like that. If it comes in, we process it. So you could always call the treasurer's office if you want to. You can go online to see if it's posted. We welcome anybody to call anytime to check to see if their payment's been made. We don't mind one bit. We're happy to look that up for you. We're also happy to send you an email or receipt via email if you want one. But rather than wonder if it's been posted, look it up, call us or the like, because the post office has been, we get mail every day that doesn't belong to us, which means other people get mail that belongs to us, that is our mail, goes to other people. And it just never shows up. The one check was over $100,000 and it's just gone. Just nobody, someday it'll show up, but.
In the Bahamas, maybe.
In the Bahamas.
Bob, you go to the online property portion, and in 24 hours, it will be posted there?
It's updated real time. So if a payment is posted, today at 10 a.m., it'll be updated in the BSA online almost immediately. But if you drop it in the Dropbox, we empty the Dropbox in the morning, and if you drop it in the Dropbox, it's posted the day we receive it. And same with the mail. We don't leave the mail sitting around. We open it immediately and we process it, usually before noon.
Okay. Clerk Vorba, you have anything else?
No, just wanted to thank my staff also. Thanks, Trustee Buckley, for the kind words. But I couldn't do it by myself. I have a wonderful staff. Denisa Terrell, Paula Jefferson, Ashley Sanders, and Deb Dooley all work very, very hard in the clerk's department on elections, and they're very, very well qualified. We're very fortunate to have their assistance.
Okay, Chuck?
I've been asked a lot about sidewalk repair program, which has been interrupted.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to ask Jeremy to do a status and the timing, because the winter is coming?
Yep.
So it's possible that a lot of it won't get done this year. So he needs to look at it and tell us in writing on a one-page or something of what's going on.
We do have if you go to our township Facebook page, there is a post from at least a month ago that does outline the situation as it existed at that time. The contractors have had some tragic family event that impacted the foreman, and that apparently made it unable for them to finish the job. I mean, I myself was impacted by this. I had 2 open sidewalk slabs for weeks, and it was like, I'm the guy making the call to Jeremy, like, what's going on? And I know that there are still several others that have yet to be filled. I think I'm hoping that each of the remaining slabs that has not been repaired yet is tied to an irrigation system of some sort. There's some other reason that they have to fix either a sprinkler system or maybe it's even at the request of the homeowner in the event that they're doing some other work on their own. But yeah, it's very disappointing, and we'll certainly reevaluate whether we use this contractor in the future.
Yeah, we're just running out of time. It'll
Yeah.
be cold weather soon.
Just shoot Jeremy an email, and he can explain it.
One other comment I wanted to add to my comments, because this is a conversation that I have frequently. If you get behind in your taxes and they get turned over to the county, and that happens to some folks, they just, they hit rough spots, or, they just can't pay them. The last thing the county wants to do is take somebody's house from them. So my advice to people is always, work with the county. They'll work with you on a payment plan. Just don't ignore them. Don't ignore the letters. Don't ignore the certified mails you get. And if you do contact the county and you need to make arrangements for a payment plan, they will work with you as much as as you need to in order to preserve your home. Because again, the last thing anybody wants to do is take somebody's house from them. That's the last resort.
Yeah. All set, Chuck?
Yes.
Okay. Bob, if you could just bring that up now on satellite view. So Mr. Pine and Mr. Stewart have stolen a little bit of my thunder here tonight, but not all of it.
Is it here?
It's actually more the, it's further down, yeah. So just if you could zoom out. Of course, this is the one night I forget to bring my pointer.
So
But,
orient us there. What are the
So
roads?
where Bob has his pointer right now is where Choctaw Cowell is building their warehouse. So I believe most of the walls are up now. And that's more of a linear site, Bob, so it probably starts closer to the railroad tracks to the north, and then it ends further south right about there. So the rest of the area is slated for the NEL hydrogen facility. So this would be a 500,000 square foot building. That would be a $400 million project and employ a little more than 500 people. And these truly are high-tech, high-paying jobs. NEL is a company out of Norway that builds the machinery to extract hydrogen from water, I presume, if I remember my chemistry correctly. So I just want to make it clear that this is more of a factory, a machinery plant. This is not some massive hydrogen storage facility or a dangerous situation like that. Obviously, hydrogen will be on site because they need it to manage their equipment, to test their equipment, but that whole area is surrounded by industry, light industry that uses similar components. So my involvement on this started in the spring of this year. You may have remember that this is this whole parcel is owned by Brookwood Capital, which is out of North Carolina, and their resident agent is Joe McSweeney. Mr. McSweeney has appeared in front of us when we did grant an industrial development district designation for this triangular piece, and we have granted in the past a tax exemption for the Choctaw Cowl facility. So again, my involvement started in the spring of this year. Governor Whitmer went to Norway last summer and secured this deal for the state of Michigan. At that time, we did not know where it would be located. So we were in competition with two other communities in southeast Michigan, and I think they selected us, one, because of we're just wonderful, but obviously we have the space, we have the location, which is wonderfully located amongst comparable light industry businesses such as Adient and Mobis and others in that general area. We are obviously our proximity to the University of Michigan, to Metro Airport was also very important. This NEL project is a collaboration between the company NEL, General Motors, the state of Michigan, and the United States Department of Energy. So I don't know, John, who I'm going to meet tomorrow in Detroit, but I think they're going to make a formal announcement. I do expect that there'll be a lot of bigwigs there from the state and federal government. And I've also been working very closely with Congresswoman Debbie Dingell on this project for several months. And I really appreciate her advocacy as well, because this is a heavily federally funded project, and I think we owe her a great deal of gratitude for her personal involvement in this. So this morning, the state strategic fund met in Lansing, and they granted a $10 million grant to this project, and they also granted a substantial $6.5 million tax abatement to this project. It is a tax opportunity that apparently I voted for in 2014. I have no recollection of voting for it, but it's an incentive for highly technical, high-tech, specialized businesses that gives them a tax exemption from the state of Michigan, similar to what we grant at the local level.
You mean on their state income tax?
Apparently, yeah. It is. I've been trying to decipher it for the last 24 hours, and I need a tax lawyer to help me out with that. But it does amount to a $6.5 million rebate, or tax cut or abatement. So next steps on this, I expect that they will have to get all of their permits again from the state, from Eagle, from from the county, and from us, of course. We are anticipating some pretty substantial permit fees to be generated from this, which helps to pay our building staff and our planner and our lawyers and everybody else associated with the project. This is obviously in the MITC corridor, so the tax revenue, the local tax revenue will go into the Brownfield Fund to the extent that that is going to be required in the future. The more that we get money to build the roads, the less money we really need out of the tax capture, because that'll be really limited then to water, sewer, and environmental cleanup. As Mr. Pine mentioned, he's absolutely right. There's going to be, I think, a lot of satellite facilities being generated from this. I think the area around the existing Dehoko prison will benefit. That large wooded area that you see on the far eastern side, that is still owned exclusively by the Michigan Land Bank. That is the bulk of the old dump site from the city of Detroit. So that is developable, as they say, but that might be a heavier lift in the future. But we also have parcel 13, which is the corner of Ridge and 5, and then we have other parcels, numerous other parcels on the old Dehoko prison property itself, which you can still see.
Where's
there.
the Meyer facility going?
Well, Myers applied for a special land use in the area, which is basically right on 5 Mile Road, Bob, where the prison is. Right? Nope. Right? Nope.
Farther east?
Right there. Boom. that, right there. So that's the site that roughly that's the site that they are, that they
So there's
that they
still
applied for.
nothing planned for between that site and Home Depot?
That's up to the developers themselves, so, right now, there's
So we
nothing.
should leave some space open for the spin-off of the hydrogen operation.
The Myers facility is not their largest footprint store, so it's not really going to take up a lot of that site. There's going to be numerous other parcels that are available behind that site, again, if the Myers goes forward.
I mean, where that oval is?
Yeah, the oval, and then you can still see the old road there. They have Detroit House of Correction Road, fence going around there on the map.
This says this picture was taken this year.
Yeah, well, it wasn't, so.
I don't think so.
Kurt, how are they going to enter this facility?
Well, we don't know that yet. It'll
Build
probably.
a bridge over the tracks?
No, it would be off,
Down below.
it'll be off a ridge road.
It'll be off Ridge
Yeah.
Road right here.
So there's an easement that might be available from the current property owner there?
Bob, if you put the cursor down toward, right there, that would probably be the main entrance, although there is also space available towards the top of the corner as well. So I did share this with Mr. Supervisor Mark Abbo yesterday morning, and his response was, good, we will now be able to sell the rest of our parcels in Northville on the other side of 5 Mile.
Why is that?
Because of this, again, because of the spin-off businesses that are anticipated.
You better not occupy them with too many other
So-
high-tech target projects.
Well,
Like
Northville is building 98 homes right across the street, so
So
those.
these are hydrogen fuel cells, right?
Yeah, and then there's
Oh, I
also
thought-
other.
Are they building
associated
fuel cells
technology.
or just the equipment to produce fuel cells?
I think it's more the equipment to produce the fuel cells. I've read a couple, I mean, the news articles are all just kind of coming out as we speak, so, and I'm not as much of a technical guy to explain to the processes.
Parts
but-
also?
But anyway, it's, okay, no, so it's more the equipment and the machinery affiliated with that. I think their goal is to make the stuff and then sell it to the auto industries so that then they can incorporate it. I heard, I did participate in the Zoom meeting this morning, and the CEO of Nell said that they're really looking more at fleet vehicles, trucks.
Locomotives?
No, big trucks.
Yeah.
You know, trucking.
Over-the-road semis.
Delivery vehicles, and you see some of that's already in place, around the world, so that's not unusual. So we're very encouraged by that whole thing. No, it's not Q&A time. So we're very encouraged by all of this. This is a huge win for Plymouth Township. It's a huge win for Michigan and for all of us in Western Wayne County. So stay tuned on that. That's about much as I know right now. I do want to talk about Northville Downs very quickly. I do want to remind everybody again that Northville Downs, the property is privately owned. They own it, they bought it, and they are entitled to due process under the law and under the zoning code and planning codes of the state of Michigan. So I just want to preface that. They are meeting with us in person. They're going to meet with me and Kevin Bennett on Monday, October 2nd, and we'll see what happens.
So you're going to talk about community benefit?
Community benefit, and then Laura has a few still outstanding issues for the PUD, and we'll see what they have to say.
So we get any community benefit comments need to go to you before that meeting?
Preferably, yeah. So,
And Bennett, both of you?
Sure.
All right.
I mean, you don't have to pay him, so, I mean, you have to pay me, so you can just, why don't you send them to me? Let's see. Upcoming agendas. So, our next meeting is October 10th. We are going to have those budget amendments for elections that Jerry talked about. We're going to have the water, bus, and trash budgets. And then Spars Greenhouse has submitted, we talked about this at the last meeting, they've submitted a plan for that corner at Lily and Joy. We're going to bring the applicants in and we're going to question them, but we're not going to have any vote that night, so it'll be more of a study session.
What day is that again?
That would be Tuesday, October 10th, our next meeting.
So Spars Greenhouse will be a talk-only situation?
Talk only, yes.
No voting?
No voting on that. The other alternative was to have a study session, and I don't think October 10th should be too bad as of now. Okay, need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Stewart, supported by Vorba. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, we're adjourned.
These days are long.